already 9+ months into this year. It makes my head spin. It's hard to believe that we're about to see another anniversary of the September 11th attacks coming up in just a few days. It will be the 15th anniversary of those tragic events that changed our world, but did not make us any safer with the police state that followed suit. I didn't get to it yesterday, but I'm going to get to it today because it dovetails with Gary Johnson falling flat on his face and not knowing what Aleppo is. But it ties into a Mark Dice report, Americans Completely Clueless About 9/11 15 years later. And whereas you can be very sad for these ignorant people or also be very scared of them because they're so dangerous, like a school of piranha or a pack of lemmings running over you and dragging you with them over the side of a cliff. But you have to understand, this is the ocean. This is the atmosphere. This is the ether. This is the elixir. This is the universe. This is the domain, the ecosystem in which the parasite globalists thrive. And the dumbed-down population is our mortal enemy. But it's an enemy that we can hopefully try to somehow find some humanity in and take back from the brink of total psychological and spiritual oblivion. Obviously, the big story on drudgereport.com, the big giant link there under the banner head of Hillary's Medusa-like Gorgon head, Hillary and the ear pearl. And she undoubtedly has an earpiece in her ear. It was about 10 o'clock at night. I was already going to bed early last night, exhausted. And Joe Biggs starts texting me, bzz, 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 bzz. Look at this earpiece. And I said, absolutely, go with it. Rolled over, went to sleep. Got up this morning at 6 a.m., went in, got some breakfast, saw the kids off at school, went in, punched up the computer, top of drudgereport.com, Paul Joseph Watson's lengthy article detailing this, but she 100% has a earbud, and you can see it on the video, but not as clearly as photos. In fact, I've got one here on my phone that Biggs texted me last night, where it's an HD photo, and you can see that it is, looks like a hearing aid, actually. The point is, they're mum on it so far. Clearly, smoking gun evidence is the WikiLeaks documents, as usual, with her girlfriend, Uma Abedin. I'm sorry, the woman that stays in the same bed with her, in the same hotel rooms. Her confidant, her friend, whose mother is the foremost promoter in the world of cutting women's genitals off. I mean, you can't make that up. It's just a little added cherry to throw in. We have the email from her saying, hey, did you forget your earpiece? Or do you need me to bring you your earpiece for the speech you're going to be giving? So Hillary does have an earpiece, has used an earpiece. This is clearly an earpiece. And the question is, how is Hillary going to spin this? So we have the man Paul Watson on Monday called a complete idiot, Gary Johnson being a complete idiot. You know, I figured it out. Gary Johnson is like an 80 IQ. We're going to talk about that as well. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this September 8th, Thursday, worldwide transmission is going to be jam-packed. The persecuted political prisoner Dinesh D'Souza will join us to break down his view on 2016 and all the big developments. We're also going to have Leanne McAdoo, Owen Schroyer, and, of course, Anthony Gucciardi in here hosting a roundtable discussion in the last hour and a half of the broadcast. We'll have Joe Biggs and others popping in as well. I intend to open the phones up in the first half of the broadcast, obviously today, and take your phone calls because I imagine you want to comment on that so-called forum last night where they attempted to rig things for Hillary Clinton, but again, it blew up in her face. She has the opposite of a Midas touch. Whatever she touches disintegrates. Huge developments on that front. We also have Gary Johnson, who I've been trying to figure out for a while, getting hit with a zinger. And these are the type of questions that I'm worried about with Trump when they bring up something like, what's Aleppo? Well, it's the most war-torn city in Syria. It's where the most lives have been lost. The city is kind of like the Leningrad or Stalingrad of Russia, where it just goes back and forth on both sides. And the war was basically decided in Leningrad, then Stalingrad, changing the name. Now St. Petersburg today. But the point is, that's what Aleppo is. It's the most war-torn battlefront of the Syrian conflict. And this morning I turned on the TV and Gary Johnson's in a controversy, couldn't answer a Syria question. And I just knew it'd be something like, what's the most war-torn city? Because reporters can act smart doing that and have all the factoids beforehand. And sure enough, I said, Aleppo. And they come back from break, they go to the clip, it was Aleppo. It's scary when you know the enemy as good as I do. It's crazy when you know what they're going to do before they do it. But really, it's not even that crazy. That's a good question, actually, to see if you have knowledge about the Syrian conflict, which I have studied for hundreds and hundreds of hours. I've interviewed probably over 100 top guests, and I have trouble keeping track of it. I mean, it is a spaghetti mess. I mean, it is like a knotted, twisted, crazy, confusing, out-of-control situation. But if you don't know what Aleppo is, that you've got a major, major problem. If you don't know what Damascus is, you've got a major, major problem. That's the ancient capital of Syria and the second oldest continual Christian community. On and on and on. They don't know these factoids. And that's the thing about Gary Johnson. When he was here, the last time in the studio, I was being very polite, very nice to him because I'd known the guy for a decade before, interviewed him in person many times, been in a few functions, even sat at the same table with him. And I always thought he was kind of boring, had no personality. But he was very hateful the last time he was here and almost hissing at me during breaks and very angry, like he does blowing up at reporters now if they question him. And now I realize it's because he's a pseudo-intellectual buffoon. When Paul Watson shot a video on Monday saying that he is a complete idiot, I said, you know, I don't know if he's a complete idiot. Maybe a sociopath, no conscience. But now I realize Paul's right. That's why he gets so mad. You look at him, he's a bumbling moron. Gary Johnson is a bumbling idiot. And any so-called libertarian that supports him is not a libertarian. Anti-gun VP, he's now anti-gun, wants open borders, wants corporate welfare, wants privatized prisons, total corporate welfare, is for the TPP, amnesty. I mean, he's for the whole New World Order agenda. The fawning mainstream media is supporting him and having LA Times headlines and New York Times headlines. This is the man that could hand it to Hillary Clinton. Absolutely. So that's why I've been hammering him, and it's good to see him basically blow his feet off because he didn't even try to say, can you elaborate? He just said, what is Aleppo? That's coming up. But obviously, the big story. The ongoing crashing and burning of Herr Hitlery. If you go to drudgereport.com, you can see the big, giant main headline under her ignoble brow, Hillary and the ear pearl. And the minute I saw this last night, I didn't notice it during the forum. Joe Biggs sent me a HD photo, and it's clearly an earpiece. And if we show TV viewers the actual article, it's an HD photo. I want to show people that. You can see that it's clearly an earpiece on the Infowars.com story. And the minute I looked at it, I said, boom, clearly this is going on. This is Hillary basically being given her walking orders if she can't answer one of these questions that comes from the crowd. She didn't have to worry about Matt Lauer, who works as part of the Global Clinton Initiative and is a darling of the Clintons. Oh, no. Didn't have to worry about that at all. Now, another big piece of evidence that James Woods pointed out was that WikiLeaks, back in 2009, released an email from Hillary, which Hillary admits is real, or to Hillary, from Huma Abedin, her confidant. Did you take your earpiece, or do I need to get it? So if they come out and say that this is a hearing aid, we know they're lying because they're calling it an earpiece, and an earpiece is the term for a tiny radio transmitter receiver that picks up audio transmissions when she's in a jam. And the Clintons, Steve Pachenik talked about this months ago on the show. In fact, we got to find the clip. He said are well known to use earpieces. So you talk about cheating. You talk about staging something. You talk about manipulation. This is it in a big, big way. So the article is an Infowars.com report. Was Hillary wearing an earpiece during last night's presidential forum? Paul Joseph Watson, conservative actor James Woods, says she can't even lie without help. And then it goes through the evidence of it. Of even more concern, it's now confirmed in the Hill newspaper. Steve Watson's reporting on it at Infowars.com. Hillary campaign is pressuring media not to cover her health issues. No kidding. If someone mentions it on a TV show now, they cut the feed. If Trump mentions it, they cut the feed. They are clearly scared to death of this because this woman has serious health problems, and that's what Paul Joseph Watson reports on. Dem strategists fear Hillary's health questions could cost her the election. Advisors panicked over viral controversy. She clearly looks like hell. She's clearly got some gentleman, a black man, that follows her around with a tranquilizer pen, and then when someone stands up in a crowd and just barely says something to her, she starts panicking and bumbling around, and he has to say, it's okay, keep talking. And then she goes from looking completely insane, focuses back down again, and looks somewhat normal. I mean, this is what you'd imagine in a movie where you show someone starting to flip out, going crazy, how they'd look, and then when they come back to reality with a totally different face, she looks like someone out of a mental institution. Why do people have to jump to her side and say everything's okay?
We'll keep talking.
Now, before I go back to the full clip of that, I want to go to Joe Biggs and get his firsthand observations of this and how he first noticed this, as a lot of other people were spontaneously noticing it last night. And then he put out the term, hashtag Hillary's earpiece, that's now going viral. So Joe Biggs for Infowars.com, they're in the control room. What was your first approximation when you saw this? And then now what's your view on it?
Well, the interesting thing about the forum last night, the not so much debate, was the fact that she would sit down and stand up and kind of walk around, pacing around. It was really odd. I was like, what is she doing? And when I got back home after we were covering the forum, I started seeing some pictures, and I zoomed in close on one of them. I saw this look like a pearl or an earpiece in her ear. So I simply took that picture, tweeted it out, and I said, you know, this looks suspicious. Is this an earpiece? Who's talking to her? Hashtag Hillary's earpiece. You know, and it really started a conversation. That hashtag's gotten over 73,000 comments on it, I believe, so far. And it's actually one of the top searches on Google right now. So, you know, who's talking to her? Who's feeding her this information, if that's what's happening? And I think Donald Trump should bring some kind of jamming device next time he goes on stage when he has to meet her one-on-one to make her actually be honest.
That's a really good point. I've always predicted that they're going to try to weasel out of a real debate with Trump, because if he's in a real debate with her on the stage and has any time to respond, he's going to savage her with the truth. It's going to be devastating. The ratings, I would imagine, even though they're burying it, you know, during NFL football games, are going to be 50, 60 million viewers, almost as big as the Super Bowl. This is going to be epic. And I don't see how they can put her up there when, again, if you've missed it, she has this mysterious guy for months with her who disappeared for a few weeks. He's now back. They won't say who he is. He's got an EpiPen or some type of injector pen right beside her, and he has to tell her, it's okay, keep talking. Let's play the clip.
Keep talking, you handle it. We're not going to...
The Trump's response
Okay, here we are.
And this is the guy that orders the Secret Service around, but is not Secret Service.
We'll keep talking.
Understand this. Secret Service doesn't touch Hillary. Unless she's being shot at, then they jump on her. And the press is asked who this is, and they won't say. And now she's finally had one staged press conference, I'm going to skip this break, where she had a coughing fit and had to stop that with just 8 or 9 sycophantic women there. Now she's had another one that no one knew was about to happen this morning with like 6 or 7 other people with staged questions. This woman has serious problems. And I saw that last night because I had one channel on with the Raw debate and then the other channel on with our analysis of it in live time. And I noticed she kept pacing back and forth very, very strangely, like she was listening to something, and it just looked like she was crazy. And it makes perfect sense. That's what someone looks like when they're waiting and listening to be able to finish their answer. Joe Biggs.
Well, if you look at the responses that Trump had after Matt Lauer would ask a question, it was very fluid. It was a normal conversation. Now, when Matt Lauer was addressing Hillary Clinton, she would kind of sit there, nod her head for a minute. There would be an awkward pause, and then she would respond, which makes complete and total sense. It's somebody's feeding her something. Is it Huma Abedin, or maybe it's one of the highest people who have donated money to her that they're allowed to talk to her. It could be George Soros or one of those demon goblin babies that she coughed up out of there that hatched. I mean, I have no idea, but someone's feeding her information, and it was very awkward. You can tell last night that it didn't seem like a normal conversation, that she was definitely being fed something.
You're right, Joe. And, of course, you made a satirical comment there about Hillary Clinton gives birth to bizarre creatures. That's the video blown up of the green globulates and weird brown fluid coming out of her mouth. We've blown this up, and it doesn't look like cough drops. Who has, swamp green, large globulates coming out with brown fluid? How could she even talk with 2 of these big lozenges in her mouth? We're not literally saying that these were, demon eggs or something, but this is so, again, emblematic of just how disgusting this woman is.
Well, another word on the street is a lot of the press corps that travel around with her know that if they ask any kind of difficult questions to her, that there's a good chance that they're going to be kicked off the plane and not allowed to follow around anymore and report on stuff.
Well, I have to say, the one veteran that got a good question into her about the fact that he was in the military with classified information, and that if he'd have done this, he'd be in jail. He was shaking. He's a grown man, combat vet, and he's up there shaking when he asked her that question because that's how much fear people have of this lady. But I have to say, the forum was better than I thought it would be. It was horrible to have Matt Lauer. He didn't disclose that he basically works with and for the Clintons. Normally, when you see News Corp or another major media outlet reporting on their own stock or reporting on their own activities, they'll tell you that, News Corp is the parent company, say, of Fox, or Time Warner is the parent company, or was, of CNN. They don't do that now. It's unprecedented.
Well, she opened up last night with the whole fact that she did not send or receive any emails with any kind of classification markings whatsoever. And she's still running with that narrative that's already been proven false, that we do know that she did that we do know that she received emails with classifications. Then she comes out and says she doesn't know what the C means. And this guy, who was a high-level military person at one time, who had a security clearance, he knew that if he would have done something like that, or if I would do something like that, we'd be in jail. This shows clearly that she is above and beyond the law.
That's right. In fact, I want to play that clip. It's on Infowars.com. Vet confronts Clinton. I would have been prosecuted for mishandling intel. U.S. Navy veteran confronted Hillary Clinton during the Commander-in-Chief Forum Wednesday over the handling of controversial information. It's beyond confidential. It's secret. Here it is.
Secretary Clinton, thank you very much for coming tonight. As a naval flight officer, I held a top secret sensitive compartmentalized information clearance, and that provided me access to materials and information highly sensitive to our warfighting capabilities. Had I communicated this information not following prescribed protocols, I would have been prosecuted and imprisoned. Secretary Clinton, how can you expect those such as myself, who were and are entrusted with America's most sensitive information, to have any confidence in your leadership as president when you clearly corrupted our national security?
Well, I appreciate your concern and also your experience, but let me try to make the distinctions that I think are important for me to answer your question. First, as I said to Matt, you know and I know, classified material is designated, it is marked, there is a header so that there is no dispute.
We have the emails where she ordered,
what is being
and her staff ordered the cutting off of those. And WikiLeaks has reported 2 days ago, Julian Assange, that next week or within a week, they're going to release thousands of emails that were secret, that she deleted, where she knew it was clearly top secret and confidential. So, again, she's about to be proven as a total and complete liar. Let me ask you this question, Joe Biggs. What do you expect her handlers to do to try to pull her bacon out of the fire?
I don't think there's anything that can take her down, really. I mean, I believe that we could literally have proof of her being connected to the murders of one of these people in the Clinton body counter, actual footage of her doing it, and they would still give her a pass. The media would still go, oh, well, she had a bad day, or maybe, you know, they would find any way they could to get her out of it. At this point in time, she's unstoppable. But the populace is, most people in America, they want Trump. If you look at the polls after the forum last night, everyone liked Trump. I mean, people see through her lies, but they're going to continue. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News now, they're all going to continue to try to push this Clinton narrative that she's this doll. She's going to be this first woman president, and she's going to be the one that helps usher us into this new era.
All right, Joe, thank you for your analysis. I think it's spot on from the perspective if we're going with the mainstream media. And I think this is a very, very key time, a battle right now between the forces of the new media and the populist movement worldwide and folks that do still tune into mainstream media. If enough people tune into mainstream media and believe that narrative that she's going to be the winner, they can steal it, and enough people will go along with it where they can effectively do that. Thank you, Joe Biggs. Now, continuing down this line, and I'm going to pull these photos up because they were viral at the time, and Drudge carried it. We covered it at the time. You would want a search engine, George W. Bush mysterious earpiece. When he clearly had an earpiece in, and he clearly had some type of transmitter booster pack on his back, and he had a wire leading up through the suit up to the earpiece, which was then a wireless earbud. So I would imagine that that's what was going on here. So there is a precedent. And so Joe Biggs was asking, you know, who knows who would be popping into her ear? I guarantee you this. It is the very same type shadow government people that were feeding into George W. Bush's ear so he wouldn't get stumped on not doing his homework and not knowing the name of major cities like Aleppo. And speaking of the devil, I want to go to the Gary Johnson information now. I don't have a bone to pick with Gary Johnson, the individual, except that I've known him for 10 years, had him in studio at least 5-6 times that I can remember, had him on the radio as a guest another 10 times or so. And the last time he was here, he acted like he hated my guts during the breaks, was bugging his eyes out at me, kind of like he blew up at the town hall reporter, just out of the blue in 1 millisecond on a dime. But I pointed out he seems really stupid, but also very arrogant, the type of fop you'd expect to find in some, country club that thinks they're God and smarter than everyone. Though he's got the energy level of a block of, cheese. Well, he went on NBC, MSNBC, and they asked him, what is Aleppo? He goes, I don't know. What is Aleppo? All he's got's gimmicks where he wears a suit and tie, but, wears Nike tennis shoes. It's all a big joke. And so this is really blown up in his face because he's a pseudo-intellectual. He supposedly knows everything, and he doesn't know anything. He supports the TPP. He says Hillary is a, quote, great humanitarian, a great public servant is the actual quote. So let's go ahead and go to the clip of Gary Johnson.
What would you do if you were elected about Aleppo?
About
Aleppo.
And what is Aleppo?
You're kidding.
No.
Aleppo is in Syria. It's the epicenter of the refugee crisis.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Well, with regard to Syria, I do think that it's a mess. I think that the only way that we deal with Syria is to join hands with Russia to diplomatically bring that at an end. But when we've aligned ourselves with, when we've supported the opposition, the Free Syrian Army is also coupled with the Islamists, and then the fact that we're also supporting the Kurds, and this is it's just a mess, and that this is the result of regime change that we end up supporting, and inevitably these regime changes have led to a less safe world. So an alliance
that's enough. Now, most of the media is not actually playing the whole clip where he gives a somewhat decent answer. But you have to understand, this is why Hillary has an earpiece, because she doesn't want to be caught in a faux pas like this. All right, stay with us. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Monday through Friday, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central, we're here live. Back weeknights, 7 o'clock Central. Find Showtime's affiliates details at Infowars.com/show. Or go to Infowars.com and just click the Listen Media tag to find all of that information. And then hopefully take that information and send those links, those stories, those podcast links, the free iPhone and Droid app links to friends, family, neighbors, people in your community that you want to wake up. Whatever you do, whether it's reaching out to complete strangers or calling your grandma up on the phone, now is the time to really hit the streets and to put our walking boots on, to quote Nigel Farage, and to get aggressive, because the 21st century information war against the globalist attempted conquest is on. Now, before I go any further, there's a lot of other news obviously going on that we tend to not get to as much because we're so busy focusing on the incredible nature of this campaign. It's less than 60 days now until the election. What an incredible time to be alive right now. 59 and a half days until that election kicks off. You could cut the tension in the air with a knife. And world economic collapse rolling out. Big Brother on steroids rolling out. Attacks on the family rolling out. This article's up on Infowars.com. New ID badge records employees' conversations. Your boss can now monitor you 1984 style. Then that ties into exclusive from Infowars.com. Bill Clinton claims Make America Great Again slogan is racist, but used the phrase officially in 1991 as his campaign slogan, right through to 92, 93. We've got a bunch of clips of that. City to find residents over puddles of water in response to Zika. We're going to look more at what Trump is actually proposing and what Hillary is proposing. It's all coming up today and your phone calls. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Now, September is Preparedness Month, and I can't offer this special throughout the month. I can offer it until the middle of next week or so. But just one of the specials is 30 to 40% off the super high-quality storable foods that are already discounted at InfoWarsStore.com. We have the entire line of My Patriot Supply that is the best quality at the very lowest prices out there you're going to find. And this is just private labeled, so we can contractually go down even more, 30 to 40% off, depending on which package. But the minimum is 30% off the already super low prices. And the profit we do make funds this operation, so it's a win-win. 20% off Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2, the good halogen that's so essential in the body. 20% off the Vitamin Mineral Fusion Fruit Punch system that everybody should be drinking every day. And it replaces, you know, all the high fructose corn syrup, soda drinks, and the rest of it. And it supports the broadcast. We have the new BioTrue Selenium that is going to sell out very, very soon. First run of it is very, very popular. Already is getting 5 stars, but not for 2 weeks. BioTrue Selenium, the strongest, purest that we could find. We believe it's the best out there. It is from the mustard seed. It ties in with Survival Shield X2. It ties in with vitamin C. These 3 things all go together. We don't sell vitamin C because there's so many really good forms of it available just in fruits and vegetables. Not the case with BioTrue Selenium. Not the case with Survival Shield X2, True Nascent Iodine. This is just not the case. So these are things that people absolutely need, and your purchase funds this operation. Also, I don't claim to be, again, a beach boy, but I gained almost 100 pounds in the first 15 years I was on air because I just quit working out. And then the last 6 years or so, I've slowly lost more than 80 pounds of fat, and I gained a lot of muscle. But overall, I'm about 50 pounds lighter than I was. And in fact, we got some new photos that I'll later in the broadcast show. I mean, I've got a big head, big chest, big shoulders, so I'm a big guy. But before Cleveland, I got down to the beginnings of a six-pack, gained about 10 pounds during Cleveland, and the weeks after that, because I quit working out for a while. But the point is, I was working out 6 years ago harder than I am now and wasn't losing weight. And it was because I was missing the key things like the proper iodine, selenium. It's just amazing what ended up happening. So, and my journey really accelerated about 3-4 years ago. That's when I lost the majority of this weight. And then just since a year ago, my muscle mass has gone way up. I've gotten so much more healthy. Again, we're showing some photos from a year ago. We've got a bunch of new ones, and I'm going to get a new video out that shows that. Because that says now, that's about 3-4 months ago. I'm in even better shape than that now. So, again, they always say it's not even so much exercise, it's diet. And absolutely, once I had the trace elements and the minerals and the good halogen in my body, it was a dramatic change in stamina, in libido, in energy. Super male vitality, X2, things like selenium, a good multivitamin mineral that I get through the Vitamin Mineral Fusion or from InfoWars Health Beyond Tangy Tangerine. The longevity product is excellent as well. All available at InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsTeam.com. In fact, we're rebuilding InfoWarsHealth.com, so the place to go is InfoWarsTeam.com for the great longevity line of products. InfoWarsLife.com products, of course, are developed by us. So whether it's colloidal silver or whether it's living defense, parasite cleanse, or DNA force, or sleep aids, or high-quality organic Mediterranean oregano, it's all available at InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsTeam.com, or you can simply call toll-free 888-253-3139. Now, getting back into the news here. Gary Johnson put his foot in his mouth. This is the type of thing I'm worried about with Donald Trump, where they'll use some factoid, some city, some town, some little piece of information to make you look stupid. And the truth is, Johnson's a globalist. He's a sellout. He thinks everything of himself. He gave a quasi-okay question, but not knowing the main war-torn city, the main battleground, not knowing the deciding city in the 6-year conflict is stupid. But he did have a decent answer after that, though it was kind of all discombobulated. But that's why Hillary's got an earpiece, and that's why George W. Bush clearly had an earpiece, because they don't know all these facts and all this information either. And so they've got to have a panel of experts sitting there. And I've talked to insiders, I mean, the people that actually know what's going on. They say there's up to 4 people sitting there ready to pop in with the correct answer for her. So it's like a rigged game show. There's been famous cases of game shows in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s being rigged with people with earpieces being told what to do or being given the questions beforehand. And so this is very, very legitimate to bring this up. And it shows that crooked Hillary will go to no ends. Donald Trump Jr. Tweeted out our story this morning as well. Everybody else should retweet Paul Joseph Watson's story. Everybody should go to drudgereport.com and get it and send it to local radio, local TV. Send it to local papers and say, why aren't you reporting on this? Because she's clearly got an earpiece in her ear. Now, watch. In fact, as of airtime 40 minutes ago, I haven't been online since then, there have been no response from Hillary. This is one of the top trending items on Twitter, Facebook, Google, one of the top stories in the world, probably be the top story, because Drudge is linked to it as his top story. How big will this get? We're going to take your phone calls coming up here in a few minutes. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. We're going to go to callers George and Austin and Jean and Eileen and John and others coming up here in a few minutes. But first, if you just joined us, here is the type of zinger I'm worried about they're going to throw at Trump because he doesn't have an earpiece and Hillary does. Here's Johnson falling on his face.
What would you do if you were elected about Aleppo.
About.
Aleppo.
And what is Aleppo?
You're kidding.
No.
Aleppo is in Syria. It's the epicenter of the refugee crisis.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Okay.
Joe.
Okay, that's
So
good.
Aleppo.
Now let's go ahead and go to Mark Dice's report from yesterday that's still on the front page of prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com, where I want to be clear, because we do the very same reports. He's a contributor to Infowars. We're not going out. Infowars isn't going out. Mark Dice isn't going out to try to make people look stupid. We're going out with horror to show how ill-informed they are. The majority of Americans don't know the three branches of government. They don't know the basics of anything. Most Americans will say ban water in surveys if you say it's for the environment to ban dihydrogen monoxide. We're pointing out this ignorance is here so that something can be done about it. This is not edited. I mean, it's cut down for brevity, but Mark Dice, and so do we show you when we go out and do this in Austin, Texas, or in other parts of the country when our crew's on the road, this is what we're getting. The majority of Californians he talks to want to kill children up to age 3, post-birth abortion. About half of Austinites do. 9 out of 10 Californians want to put gun owners in forced labor camps and seize our assets. These people are dangerous, and that's why we're showing them to you. And then this is the type of low-information voter that Gary Johnson hopes you are when he says the TPP is a great deal. Or when his neocon warmongering associate wants to ban all guns that hold more than 5 rounds of ammunition. And he claims you take the pin out of a rifle to make it automatic. You take the pin out, the firing pin out, so it doesn't work anymore, dummy. So a lot of these politicians are just kind of mediocre yes men. And then their minions are even stupider. Let's go to the folks that Gary Johnson is so popular in California right now. Here it is.
What was the name of the organization that Osama bin Laden ran?
I don't know.
You don't know. What was the name of the terrorist leader behind the 9/11 attacks?
Or wait, I always pronounce it wrong, but it's Saddam Hussein or something.
What is the man's name that was behind the September 11th attacks? Like the big terrorist leader. What was his name?
I don't know.
You don't know. What was the name of the terrorist leader behind the 9/11 attacks?
Don't remember. Saddam Hussein?
No.
Saddam Hussein?
I don't know. I thought this was going to be fun, and you just made this all serious.
No, life is actually very serious. It's
Yeah, I know. It's really sad stuff, but I'm at the
giving
beach.
you a reality check today.
Oh, geez, okay.
What country were most of the terrorists from that committed the 9/11 attacks?
Iraq. Iran. Syria.
Nope.
Middle East.
Well, that's a region. What year did the 9/11 attacks happen?
2003.
What did the terrorist attacks of 9/11 start? What was the result of that?
A lot of people being scared about terrorists.
It was the beginning of the war
On Syria. A war.
on Iraq.
before the Iraq War. There's something else. That was 2 years later.
2 years later, after 9/11.
It started the war on terror. That's the answer we were looking for. The war on terror.
The war on terror.
Okay. And then
Wow.
was the Iraq War.
Okay.
Okay, 2 years later. Other than the Twin Towers, what other building got hit on 9/11?
I think it started with an E.
With an E?
Yeah. But I don't know the name of it.
Okay. What was some of the targets of the 9/11 terrorist attacks?
I don't know. I want to get a beer, man.
What year did the 9/11 attacks happen?
I'm good, man.
What's the answer?
I'm good.
What terrorist organization was behind the terrorist attacks?
I'm going to guess ISIS, but I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah, that's... Oh, gosh. Who was the terrorist leader behind the 9/11 attacks?
They say it was Osama bin Laden.
Oh.
But do we really know which facet of, you know,
this guy's thinking.
That's what they say.
Okay. No, this man is thinking here. Let that sink in there for a minute, people.
That's what they say. Who knows? That's who the government pinned it on.
Good for you, bro.
Anything else?
I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but it's overwhelmingly Italians don't trust the government and know what's going on. Now, I know some Italians that are dumber than a box of rocks as well. I mean, every group has morons, but it's just funny that guy's got a big, I'm an Italian tattoo on his arm, and he's the only person out there that could even have any inkling of what planet we were living on. And that's what's frightening about this. I don't take pleasure in the fact the general public is really stupid. And they revel in it. Like that one guy said, I don't care, I want a beer. Your ancestors fought and died and were as tough as nails so you'd have a little bit of freedom and a little bit of free market and this prosperity. And then these people sit there thinking it's going to go on forever when the globalists are the biggest sharks the world has ever seen. And that's why they do things like this. Hillary, last night, we have the clip coming up, told the folks at the Commander-in-Chief Forum, the veterans, that, quote, we did not lose a single American in Libya. She's gotten in trouble for saying that over and over again for 4 years. She did it again because it's on purpose. We lost 4 Americans. Upwards of 80,000 Libyans have now been killed by the war you triggered, bringing in Al-Qaeda, now known as ISIS. So that's how stupid she thinks you are. That's a Breitbart article. We have the clip. But remember, her constituents do not know what planet they're on, have no idea what Benghazi is. That's why she said famously in the Senate Armed Services Committee, when they asked about the Turkish ambassador, she said, Turkey? What are we talking about? Turkey birds? You know, again. But I tell you, John Bound, one of our investigative journalists, has knocked it out of the park again with the fact that, hey, they're openly trying to rig the election in front of everybody. We got to keep this front and center. Here's John Bound.
In one of the most blatant pieces of propaganda in U.S. history, the Washington Post wants to sell America on the idea that the upcoming rigged elections by Obama and the DHS will be blamed solely on Vladimir Putin.
Of course, the elections will not be rigged. What does that mean?
This is a kind of fundamental attack on the country itself, the underpinning of it, that somehow or another it's rigged or it's not fair. People, some people don't believe that. The truth of that is, Chuck can attest to this too, by and large, American elections are pretty much on the up and up.
The Washington Post writes, U.S. intelligence and law enforcement agencies are probing what they see as a broad, covert Russian operation in the United States to sow public distrust in the upcoming presidential election and in U.S. political institutions. The aim is to understand the scope and intent of the Russian campaign, which incorporates cyber tools to hack systems used in the political process, enhancing Russia's ability to spread disinformation. The effort to better understand Russia's covert influence operations is being spearheaded by James R. Clapper Jr., the director of national intelligence. This is something of concern for the DNI, said Charles Allen, a former longtime CIA officer who has been briefed on some of these issues. It is being addressed. The official cautioned that the intelligence community is not saying it has definitive proof of such tampering or any Russian plans to do so. But even the hint of something impacting the security security of our election system would be of significant concern, the official said. It's the key to our democracy that people have confidence in the election system. Let me get this straight. The American people are to place the future of our country in the hands of National Intelligence Director James Clapper, the same man that blatantly misled the American people when he lied to Congress regarding the total dragnet our intelligence community wields on the supposed protections of our Bill of Rights.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
Now, why do you say he was lying there? Because the letter that he sent to Congress admitted that they roam through the content of phone calls and the content of emails and the content of text messages without a warrant, in direct contradiction to what he said to that Senate committee.
I do think that when history looks at this, they're going to contrast the behavior of James Clapper, our National Intelligence Director, with Edward Snowden. Mr. Clapper lied in Congress in defiance of the law in the name of security. Mr. Snowden told the truth in the name of privacy.
And the DHS is going to overrule powers given to local and state governments to manage their own elections under Article 1, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, not to mention the powers afforded states in the 10th Amendment, simply because DHS claims to be able to provide ironclad cybersecurity. Thousands of DHS employees were subjected to, as WorldNet Daily recently reported, the theft of Social Security numbers, dates of birth, residencies, educational and employment histories, personal foreign travel histories, immediate families, business and personal acquaintance details, and other information used to conduct background clearances. A mountain of evidence containing decades of collusion between our government and an elitist banking cabal sits collecting dust. Meanwhile, the American people are supposed to believe with zero proof that a foreign government will hack our elections, and that for the first time in U.S. history, the electoral process must be hijacked by a dictatorial administration hanging on to the last remnants of its power before they are shown the door. John Bound for Infowars.com.
Do people notice history when it's happening right in front of them? Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones. Second hour, straight ahead.
For listening
then
to
hour
GCN.
3, hour 4. Spread the word.
Visit GCN
It's an info war.
today.
It's a war. A war. We've got a lot coming up today. Dinesh D'Souza, Leanne McAdoo, Mr. Schroyer, and others in studio. I want to go to your phone calls throughout this hour, intersperse it with a lot of other news that is obviously unfolding. Gene in New Mexico wants to talk about Clinton's earpiece in the election. We'll go to Gene in the next segment. We've got Austin wants to talk about third term for Obama. George wants to talk about Hillary could die in office. What would happen? That's an important question. We've got Al wants to talk about Trump in the election. Scottish John wants to talk about Lord Monkton. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. Obviously, I'll recap some of the top stories against the news I haven't covered a little bit later in the hour, but the big story is Hillary wearing the earpiece. And what do you think of the forum? It was an hour long. Forum was usually 2 or 3 hours long, and hit an earpiece in, and the whole thing was staged with Matt Lauer, her minion that works for her, asking the questions. He didn't disclose that. Pretty crazy. So let's go ahead and go to Austin in Oklahoma. You're on the air. Thanks for calling.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I just want to say, first of all, that I'm actually, this is my first year voting, and my family has been listening to you for a long time. So we want to thank you for just what you've been doing on the air for all these years.
Well, thank you, brother. We got 40% of people like you that don't ever vote, and that's who Trump's counting on to go out and get registered and to vote. This is a populist insurrection taking over the Republican Party, and it's why both the political parties are crapping their pants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I had an article that I was looking at this morning, and I saw it said, I guess Wolf Blitzer was interviewing Obama. I don't know if you've seen it before. And he said that he wasn't going to leave office if Obama, or if Donald Trump actually did get elected. So, and then
I have not seen that interview. I have seen him say that I've seen Obama say that Trump is disqualified and Trump can't be president. I've seen Obama say he doesn't want to leave office, but he has to. I've seen him make a lot of draconian statements about basically if he could act like a dictator, he could get more done. Similar things to what Bush said. But can you give me the headline on that? Because, boy, I'd like to see that. He told Wolf Blitzer that he won't leave office if Obama's elected, if Trump's elected.
Yeah, he said it's actually the Burrard Street Journal. It says President Obama confirms he will refuse to leave office if Trump is elected. And it actually says in the article that he was prepared to use full force. You know, the Secret Service, he's instructed the Secret Service to use full force in defending the White House from the Trump family. And, of course, Trump responded with
Okay, let me guess. You were reading a transcript?
I just went to this website and started reading the...
Yeah, there's a lot of... I don't know about the website you're mentioning, sir, but if that was said, my phone would be ringing off the hook within seconds. I'd have people beating down my door within 20 minutes. I'd be on air no matter what time it was at 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. or Christmas morning, okay, or New Year's evening. Sir, that is absolutely not true. When you see transcripts out there claiming that Wolf Blitzer interviewed Obama and he said that he was not going to leave office, that would be sensational. That would be impossible because he wouldn't say it like that. They'd stage a false flag or launch a war or a depression like Roosevelt basically used a war to stay in power for a third term, was starting his fourth term. Here's another thing. There was this Army document circulating the web, supposed Army document, saying martial law had already been declared months ago. Well, they're not going to call it martial law. They're going to call it a civil emergency. So there on its face, you know it's fake. And then the way it's written, we know it's fake, just like the fake Hillary records that were out there. But, yeah, you got to really watch stuff like that. Send me a copy of that email, Austin. I appreciate your call. And I've had them do this to me as well. They will say that I said that we were going to have martial law last year because of Jade Helm. Never said it. I said it was training to acclimate the police, the military, and the public for troops on the streets. That's a fact that the Pentagon has been directed to do that and is bucking. I am going to go to your phone calls on whatever subject you want to raise. Obviously, the so-called military commander-in-chief forum last night was a debacle. You had Matt Lauer, who works for the Global Clinton Initiative at a high level, is paid by them, not disclosing that he was there basically refereeing with his boss. It wasn't a debate. There were a few good questions, and Hillary has a big fat earpiece in her ear. You've got her vomiting up weird green chunklets that do not look like cough drops with weird brown fluid. She can't give press conferences because she starts hacking. She has staged press conferences with 7 or 8 confidant members of the press. That's not a press conference. She's in the WikiLeaks, wants Parkinson's medication. And we've got Uma Abedin, her confidant, saying, do you have your earpiece? Do I need to bring your earpiece? In the WikiLeaks. So we have massive WikiLeaks news coming out next week. Julian Assange says, what will these rats do? I don't think they're invincible. But the media is going ahead with the image and the idea that they are and that nothing can stop them. So what do you expect them to do? Well, I expect them to continue to target the low-information voters out there. I'm going to play these clips later, but Bill Clinton's slogan was a ripoff of Ronald Reagan. And as much as I like Donald Trump, I don't know how he copyrights Make America Great Again, because that's what Ronald Reagan always said word for word, and then that was ripped off by Bill Clinton, and then it's been, again, adopted by Donald Trump when it's politically incorrect. So it shows how we have Bill Clinton saying Make America Great Again, build a wall, deport felons, blah, blah, blah. Then Trump says it word for word, which was just standard U.S. policy 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and it's like he's a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater. They're scared of him. He's got General Flynn and other patriots that know the globalists are running al-Qaeda, that know that our leadership is selling us out to orthodox radical Islam, and that want to actually have decent trade deals that no one will be able to say no to because they're going to be fair. They still want this market. These are one-sided deals with globalists to screw us and the Chinese workers and the Mexican workers and the Indian workers. When they sold globalism 60 years ago that you would actually have high wages in the third world, and you would develop projects that worked in conjunction. In fact, since I mentioned it before I go to your calls, let's play a few clips of Bill Clinton in 91, 92, 93, saying, "It's time to make America great again." Here he is. Now he says, of course, that Donald Trump and make America great, that means none of you that weren't here. He's saying you're not great. He's saying make it white. He's saying, yeah, that's right, that's right. No, globalism is screwing us over. The country's falling apart. We don't like it. We don't like China with a 40% on average currency tariff, where their currency's so low, there's no way we can compete. Then they have no environmental standards. Then they have power 3 to 4 times cheaper than ours because our government put regulations in to shut down our power plants. A wet blanket has been thrown on our economy if it was a fire. Trump wants to take the blanket off, put some kindling on, and we can start roasting marshmallows and hot dogs again, ladies and gentlemen. You just need to take the bowling ball, the ball and chain off our ankle, and then we can compete again. This is economic warfare in their own words. Look at everything they do, but they admit it's warfare. So here's Bill Clinton back when he wanted to hoodwink people that he was really Ronald Reagan. I'm a Democrat. I like Reagan. Here it is.
I believe that together we can make America great again.
I want to attack these problems and make America great again.
To secure a better future for your children and your grandchildren, and to make America great again.
Okay, so should I play Hillary saying build a wall, build a barrier, and deport criminals? Oh, you know what? I don't even need to. She said it. But see, her servile supporters that are few and far between, they don't care. They like the imagination that they're part of this big power structure. Okay, let's go to Gene in New Mexico, the home of Gary Johnson, or what is Aleppo? What is Aleppo for $200? Gene in New Mexico, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex. Well, you know, I'm an independent, and every friend of mine is a libertarian, and it's interesting. None of them are going to vote for Gary Johnson. We think that the polls have rigged it to make it seem like he's doing pretty well at, 7% or so? I cannot find a libertarian that's voting for him. But anyways, I wanted to tell you, I work in the medical field, and all my coworkers, we're listening to your transmission right now. And what the big question is for us is, how long has Hillary been using that earpiece? Did she use it during the primaries or before?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really great question. Look, all I know is she's wearing an earpiece, and she hasn't responded yet. I was searching earlier for Hillary's response to earpiece controversy, and the silence is deafening. I mean, I'm sure as soon as she does respond, one of our reporters will come in here and tell me, or Drudge Report will have it up. But that's a big question. When will she respond to the earpiece situation? That's a big question. What do you think?
Well, I think my coworkers and I, we think that the liberal media is going to spin it and say that this is a hearing aid or that it's cotton balls, which is not, okay? It's not. We looked at the footage. That's not a hearing aid, and that's not cotton balls, okay? So that's basically it. So yeah, we want to know how long has it been done.
I hear you. I hear you, ma'am. God bless you. And they are moving on every front right now. Looking at drudgereport.com, these stories are also up on InfoWars.